Hi, my name is Mike Morris. I am a professional storyboard artist working in the animation industry, and I am going to talk to you about gesture drawing for performance. Ah! So, for this video, I am only going to be using this Wacom one. Well, specifically, this Wacom one. And I'm only going to be using the software that it comes bundled with and a video editor. But mostly the Wacom one. So enjoy my serious voice as we talk a little gesture drawing and gesture drawing philosophy. From the outset of this video, I want to make something abundantly clear. Gesture drawings are the foundation. It's one of those things that I feel like as you practice it, you're just going to see improvement after improvement in your drawing, especially in your character art. Gesture drawings are often referred to as the spirit of the pose or the power of the pose. They're simple, they're quick, they're expressive, they're experimental. You can sort of play around with a lot of different variations on a theme, but most of all, they're communicative. You want to make sure that when you put this drawing in front of somebody else, you're not the only one that knows what's going on. Every pose has two main ingredients: the physicality, what the subject is doing, the action they're performing with their body, what they're doing with their hands, etc., and the mentality, the thought process behind it, and the feelings that are associated with those thoughts. These all inform one another to create clear communication between the artist and the audience. For instance, the mentality, say somebody is feeling sad. Their feelings will inform their thinking, and their thinking will inform the actions that their body is doing, whether they're more slumped or saggy, and that idea registers with your audience. There lies the challenge, taking something as abstract as emotion and finding out a way to externalize it, taking all those thoughts, feelings, and actions and emotions and distilling them all down into something that's external, visual, and in this case a drawing. Which brings me to observation. One of the most important skills that you can cultivate as an artist is observation. Learning how to see things beyond the surface qualities of something. Study mannerisms. Look at how people do things the way that they do them. And try to understand why and the thought processes and the feelings behind how they're doing things. Those can inform your drawings so you can work from the generic to the specific. For instance, let's take the emotion happiness. Somebody could be happy, they could be walking down the street and smiling and having a great day, versus happy of a child being born or somebody getting married. So happy that they're like literally tearing up. Those are two different kinds of happiness, although they do both fall under the same sort of category of happiness. Consciously be on the lookout for what is unique about the subject that you're drawing. What makes it special? What makes it different than other things that you've drawn? And finding so, you will be able to move from that generic sort of figure to something that's a little bit more unique and interesting. Try to empathize as best you can with the subject that you're drawing to capture the feelings and emotions that it's portraying. Doing so, I feel like, gives you a more authentic result. Something that feels genuine and feels real. Now that we've covered a few of the basic things, let's talk about performance itself. I feel like one of the main important things of performance is bringing an experience to somebody that hasn't experienced that very thing themselves, to impart the emotion of what it felt like to go through this act or through this experience as though they themselves experienced it. And that can be a hard thing to do a lot of the time. One thing that helps with that is thinking about what is the subject's inner dialogue, the thoughts that are all sort of chaining together to make this person act in a certain way or emote in a certain way. Some performances can be very broad, they're very outward, so you know at a glance what the subject is feeling or thinking or doing. The simplicity of broad performances lends itself really well to things like comedy, where you're telling a joke and you're just laying out those thoughts or lack of thoughts and emotions out plainly so your audience sees it instantly, gets the joke, and you get that laugh that you're after. Other performances will tend towards the subtle, which can be more complex to portray because of the internal nature of what your subject is going through. That you need to really do your observations to see how those subtleties can be portrayed outwardly. going from an internal source to an external display. Those subtleties that you have to more weave your way through lend themselves more towards the dramatic than the comedic. In keeping with that, the physical action of the broad or more simple performances tend towards the more straightforward, whereas subtle or more complex internal emotions have more of a layered meaning in the posing, even contradictory in some cases, like two emotions that are in competition with one another, both being portrayed at the same time. For instance, if somebody's opening a birthday present that they don't particularly like but still want to be polite about receiving, could have very awkward body language to reflect those feelings. A great artistic tool we can use is line of action, a single overarching line that denotes the direction of a pose or the body language of a subject. Using line of action, we're going to try and tap into that nearly universal shared body language that we as humans tend to utilize. Line of action can help us simplify that body language and boil it down to its most basic elements for clarity and easy readability. Let's look at some examples. First example is a slightly curved diagonal line, followed by a figure that looks distressed, taken aback, or surprised. Next, we'll do a very similar curve, only canted a little bit more forward from the last one. The corresponding figure looks a little bit more confident, or self-possessed, or at any rate, more comfortable. The third line of action we have here gives a more drastic curve, with a corresponding figure that looks like it's readying, or sneaking around, or giving off more of a feeling of subterfuge. Now let's talk a little bit of armchair psychology with some of our line of action choices. Featured here are several different lines of action, each with a different color, each with a different shape. First up, this perpendicular, straight up and down blue line. A line of action like this can promote a stalwart steadiness or rigidity or stoicism. It gives a very static feeling, like something isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So as a follow-up pose, it becomes our trusty park ranger. Next we have a diagonal line of action. Diagonals tend to evoke feelings more of motion. They're more dynamic. They can even provoke ideas like conflict, like getting in somebody's face. So for the follow-up pose for this, we have a rather indignant and angry ballerina. Up next is this purple S-curve. S-curves can go a lot of different ways, but in this case, we're using it more of like a slumped over S-curve. This can denote sadness or a mournful body language. It can also denote things like somebody who's super chill and laid back. We can also imply feelings of tiredness or laziness with a line of action like this. Follow-up pose, the venerable slacker. Moving on. The red line of action here has a couple things going on. It's both curved and straight at the same time. This gives me a feeling of something bold or victorious, a very heroic. Or you could go the other way. It could be very aggressive or pompous. Somebody that is throwing their weight around. For the connected subject, I chose a superhero, which is standing boldly against evil, but with a confidence that says, yeah, I've got this under control. For this last green line of action, we have a curved diagonal. A line of action like this can denote somebody that's startled or submissive and retreating. And for the figure, for every superhero, there needs to be a criminal. And in this case, the criminal is giving up. He is backing away, saying, I give up. These are just a few examples of line of action, and you can use this tool to simplify and break poses down to their basic emotional components. Another fantastic tool that we have at our disposal to impart performance is silhouette. Since silhouette deals with physicality directly, it also gives an insight into body language. Good silhouette value offers clear communication, something that we can use to help get our performance across. It can also give a good indication of certain emotional portrayals. The more common type of silhouette has an open posture. The open silhouette not only makes what the subject is doing easier to understand at a glance, and thus great for communication, but also implies an openness of emotion and a willingness to let others know what they're feeling. Though open silhouettes do tend to more positive emotions, the main purpose is to show outwardly what the subject is feeling inwardly. Which brings us to the closed silhouette. With a closed silhouette posture, the body is closer together. It's harder to read what's going on at a glance, and you often have to rely on other things like facial cues to see a little bit more about what's going on. It implies that the subject is a lot less willing to share outwardly what they're feeling inside. hiding away those emotions from public view. Closed postures can tend to more negative emotions, fear, jealousy, bitterness, things like this where people are having a more internal experience. Closed silhouettes are also good at bringing across the idea of self-protection or preservation, the body instinctually contracting for defense. Closed silhouettes are also really good at portraying things like shyness or grief or secrecy, where the body is purposely trying to obscure what it's doing to hide the truth. And again, as we are going through this, think of these more as general guidelines as opposed to hard and fast rules, and rely on your observation and understanding of the underlying emotional content to portray your subject. In doing so, you'll find you'll get something more unique and more specific to the subject that you're portraying. Alright, so the final thing we're going to cover in this video is facial expressions, the double-edged sword of gesture drawing. And by double-edged sword, I mean this. It is both the low-hanging fruit of the gesture drawing and one of the most important things that you can do. It can make or break a pose. To get a quick read on a subject, facial expressions are by far the most obvious thing you can put on there. It can also be the most important, especially if you're framing your drawing a little closer. Something that I would say in filmic terms would be a medium or a close-up. And the closer you get to the face, the more the nuance matters. The more effort you have to put into making it different and making it special. So again, and I can't say this enough, it's all down to observation, observation, observation. You have to be a student of life. And there's a big difference between looking and observing. When you're looking, you just basically see the general picture of something. When you're observing, you see the nuances, you see the very small gradations and the little details that really make something come alive. It's in the investigation of these little details that you'll find those hidden treasures of originality that you're really searching for. Then take those experiences and incorporate them into your artwork. Use what you've seen to fuel that individuality. This will help you push past those cliches that we so often see in drawings into something that's unique not only to you, but unique to the character, unique to the story that you're telling, and unique to the performance. Facial expressions can also have a very fine-tuning effect for your pose, something that accentuates the body language, or you can go the other way. Using facial expressions for a counterpoint is a very effective way of juxtaposing the body language in conflict with the facial expression. So the body language is saying one thing and the face is saying something completely different. Let's look at a few examples. The example here we're going to use is opening a birthday present. Now here we have a very basic, happy-ish, I'm opening a birthday present and I'm excited to see what's in it. There's not really a ton here to play with. It's pretty plain. So why don't we amp it up a little bit and we'll make that happiness like tenfold. This kid is so excited to see what's inside that he can hardly contain himself. His eyes are as wide as saucers. This kind of excitement I feel like betrays a certain innocence, a certain youth. Somebody who's really in touch with their emotions or has very powerful emotions, but those emotions have yet to really mature. Whereas the next example, the character is pushing the present away after having visibly opened it. The expression is very dour, their eyebrows are low, they're looking up like in an expectance of something better. Their real emotion is that of ingratitude and a sense of entitlement. Next we have somebody that has opened their present and is really sort of surprised, a little shocked at what they found. And the expression on their face is reflecting that. Here in our fifth example, we have somebody that's leaning over and side-eyeing somebody, like they're suspicious of something they've got them. Or maybe they're just very unhappy and they're giving them a look like, you should know better that I don't like this. Again, evoking that sense of entitlement. The final pose here infers some sort of shyness or timid behavior. Somebody that isn't necessarily satisfied or happy about the present they got, but they're trying really hard not to be rude about it. Somebody that's saying, yeah, it's okay, that's really great, thank you. But they don't really mean it inside. It's situations like this that are really great for counterpointing the body language and the facial expression, where the body language is like, yeah, this is great, and the inner turmoil or inner dialogue is saying, I really don't like this, but I'm gonna suck it up and bear with it. There are countless different kinds of facial expressions that you'll encounter. So again, the key is observation. Always be observing, find unique things, find different things, find ways of expressing different emotions or expressing different feelings or thoughts by your observations. Incorporate those experiences. Find a great way to blend the two where you can make a expression clear and easy to understand and yet unique according to things that you've observed. So make sure you keep cultivating those observational skills so you can get the most out of your poses, the most out of your facial expressions, and the most out of your gesture drawings. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you got a lot out of it. It's been a pleasure working with this little Wacom One, and I'll see you guys around. Thanks a lot for watching.